More Carson Scott spoke with David Weisbrot, Professor of Legal Policy at the US Studies Centre at the University of Sydney. He began by asking how this may impact the US elections.
I'm sure that the Republicans are going to campaign on it, but so will Obama. I think it would have been devastating for him to lose the Supreme Court challenge. This is, after all, the centerpiece of his presidency so far. He invested enormous political and personal capital in getting the law up, and I think any major victory is a major victory for a politician. For Romney and the Republicans, they have another thing to campaign on. Immigration may be another, but it's an awkward one for Romney personally. After all, Obamacare is modeled very closely on Romneycare from Massachusetts, and I don't think it. You can predict the Obama commercials that are going to appear on TV when Romney starts slamming the law and saying this is exactly what you brought in Massachusetts and you were proud of it then.
So the idea of dumping the T word on people, tax, just another tax, there's every reason for Obama to parry on that one, as you say, by referencing back to effectively another, veiled tax that he would have put out there.
That's right, and interestingly, the Obama administration tried not to use the word tax. They've been using the term individual mandate. That is, that certain individuals and some companies would be required to buy private health insurance. And it is important to know that much of this scheme is based around incorporating the private sector. Insurers, pharmaceutical companies, hospital maintenance organizations, health maintenance organizations, and so on. The scheme was actually devised originally by the Conservative Heritage Foundation as an alternative to pure expansion of Medicare or a single-payer public system the way we have it in Australia.
Well, call it an individual mandate, call it a tax, no matter what the euphemism. Edward Luce writing in the FT saying, look, David, voters overwhelmingly say it's the state of the economy rather than the individual mandate that will determine their choice. So when it all boils down to it, when you get jobless numbers off the back of the July 4 holiday, is that really where the battleground is going to be fought?
Ultimately, I think all of the commentators and all American history suggests if the economy is good, if people are feeling secure, they vote for incumbents. If they're feeling unsettled and desperate, then they will turn to the challengers. So I think that's still going to be the key thing for Obama, is how well the economy is traveling as we get to November.
It was a complex judgment. Inevitably, there was some misunderstanding on its initial release just a short time ago. But why did it have to go all the way to the Supreme Court? Just rewind the tape a little bit and put it into context, and then the inevitable ruling that, okay, if it's a tax, we as judges can't rule on that, on its constitutionality.
Well, they can rule on it, but they ruled that it was a constitutional tax. But just to take you back, 7 minutes after Obama signed the legislation and it became law in America, 25 states, led by Florida, and a few private organizations, peak organizations for business groups, filed suit. And there were a number of rulings in the lower court, so that you started to have a disparity. Interestingly, those didn't go according to how you would necessarily predict them to go. So some Democratic judges, Democratic-appointed judges voted against Obamacare, some Republican-appointed judges voted for. And anyway, once you get that kind of diversity and uncertainty in the lower courts, the Supreme Court is more likely to step in. And of course, this is such a big part of what's happening in American politics. The Supreme Court was hardly going to duck it.
Yeah, well, and John Roberts, no less, was hardly going to put his name to the obliteration of a sitting president's domestic reform, would he?
Well, many Democrats feared that would be the case. I think the Democrats' most optimistic scenario for much of the time has been that Justice Anthony Kennedy, who's the swing judge, so-called, would side with the 4 more liberal judges and give them a 5-4 majority. Roberts is, by and large, sided with the conservative faction of the court. In this case, though, he came to the rescue, interestingly, and Kennedy voted with the conservatives. So were it not for Chief Justice Roberts, the Obamacare would have gone down in a heap.